Hey everybody, and welcome to the Heart of Geek YouTube channel and another episode of TLDR. Now, with the new Dresden Files book Peace Talks coming out, I wanted to talk about the Dresden Files TV show because, quite frankly, I love the books, and I picked up the DVDs a while back thinking, hey, might love the show too, even though it got canceled after a season. I still went, hey, I gotta check it out. So I bought them, I watched them, and the show isn't bad, but there are some glaring things about it that make it not a good Dresden Files show, and I believe led to why it got canceled. One, the books and the show go in completely separate directions, which isn't bad because, I mean, if you look at the Hellboy comics and the Hellboy Guillermo del Toro movies, they went in different directions. They had the same characters and everything, but they went on different paths. And I look at those and I go, hey, it's not exactly the Hellboy that I read about in the comics, but it's not bad. And I look at the Dresden Files books, and there's a lot of them, and they're great. And the Dresden Files TV show isn't bad, but it's got some major differences in the whole thing, and I think it came down to being the medium. Like, you look at the books, and you can imagine the entire world based on what he, and by he I mean Jim Butcher, talks about in the books, and you're like, oh, and you can extrapolate everything. Even if you've never been to Chicago, you can kind of figure out and map it in your head. On the TV show, there's a bunch of stuff that just goes in a different direction. And like, for instance, let's look at Harry. In the books, he's got a staff and a blasting rod. And basically, they end up sometimes getting destroyed, and he ends up making new ones out of just whatever wooden stuff he has around. And yeah, in the show, he's got his staff is a hockey stick, and his blasting rod is a drumstick. And yeah, people who are a fan of the books can understand why that's a thing, but people who have never seen the show before are probably going, that's a bit odd. Tell me in the comments if you saw that and you weren't even like, oh, weird. But carrying on from that, like, the books introduce Harry in a book called Stormfront. And it's a really cool mystery. It brings out Harry and the entire fleshed out world of like the council and Chicago at the time and Harry's role in everything and this whole thing, and it lays it out great. And by the end of the book, you're like, oh, I know this whole world. I have a pretty good grip on who Harry is, and that's fantastic. And that was supposed to be the pilot of the TV show. It was supposed to be Stormfront. They filmed it. It was like 2 hours long. It was pretty good, and basically between when the pilot came out and when it came out as a regular series, Sci-Fi pushed Stormfront to being episode 8, and later episodes were pushed earlier in the timeline. So stuff that gets referenced specifically in Stormfront is introduced in later, now earlier episodes, as if it's just always been a thing. And if you know anything about Firefly and how Fox changed the order of those episodes, it can be a little hard to follow when that stuff happens, and it can lead to people like losing grips on the show. And I mean, if you're a fan of the Dresden Files books, it's automatically, you already have like some groundwork for what the show is going to be. But if it doesn't introduce things and then it introduces them later, and then, oh no, you were supposed to know about that, and then some other stuff happened and it's weird, it can like pull you out. So there's that. There's the fact that Karen Murphy is called Connie on the show, which is like a weird, I don't know why you didn't just call her Karen. I know it's spelled weird in the books, but it's Karrin, but it's Karen. It's not hard to pronounce. It's not like weird to say. It just say it and it'll be fine. And then there's Bob, who in the books is a skull covered in like glyphs and stuff, and he has glowing eyes and he talks like as a disembodied voice. And I get, when you're a first season of a show, they don't give you the world's largest budget, and you're thinking long term, and you're like, do we really want to animate every time Bob talks this glowing skull and stuff? So instead of that, he's just a person. So it's like, it's not terrible, but, and I can understand the constraints of all that, but it's still kind of goofy. Now, that being said, those nitpicks about what's going on in the Dresden Files TV show don't actually do a lot to make it a bad TV show. And the reviews of this thing that I've seen online were like, it's okay. It's got a lot of promise. I would like to see more. And it turns out we can't, because they canceled it. And turns out that Sci-Fi Channel apparently didn't even cancel it because it had low viewership. It's that it had low viewership in the demographics they were hoping that they would be able to pull in, which is very strange. So I don't understand that. I would like to see a new Dresden Files show, and every once in a while they talk about rebooting it and making it new and doing a whole bunch of stuff with it, and then that goes away, and then it comes back, and then it goes away again. So I'm not holding my breath on that one. But if I was to make the Dresden Files TV show, I would make it to where every book was a season, and you could flesh out the whole book with that going through it. And even if you don't think the books are long enough to sustain across an entire season, there are a bunch of smaller stories that Jim Butcher has put out in smaller volumes that have to do with smaller cases. You can plug those in to wherever the gaps are to flesh out the world and Harry's role in it. And then you have, unlike Game of Thrones that basically ended before the books were finished, so it just kind of had to scramble and go, oh, what do we do now? And then drop the ball in the last season. We have plenty of books, so plenty of seasons, and Jim Butcher continues to make more great books in the series. There's another one coming out in September, and I'm totally jazzed for that. And any more that he has coming down the pipeline, I'm totally jazzed for. So, like, it's not like there's not a built-in audience for this, but if you do it right, you can draw in a whole new audience who has never read the books. I know there's like 6 of you out there, but seriously, these books are great. And I think it hits a genre that, like, a lot of people, whether you like detective stuff, crime stuff, wizardy stuff, it like hits a lot of little bits that just, all of them are in my wheelhouse. And so, yeah, the books are great. You should read them all. The series is pretty all right. I think it's on Netflix. If you get a chance to watch it, it's not bad. Paul Blackthorne is pretty great in it. Everybody else that's in there is they're putting in the work to make it a great show. It's just the writing wasn't quite the greatest, but that's just a nitpick. But I feel like Sci-Fi Channel was the one who let this show down, and fans of the Dresden Files as a whole. So, do you agree? Tell me in the comments. Do you disagree? Go ahead and tell me in the comments too. Give it a like. Give it a subscribe if you want to see more. And I hope to see you again here on the Heart of Geek YouTube channel, or the Kids Heart of Geek channel, or our website, theheartofgeek.com. Anywhere that you want to see us. Facebook, we have a Facebook group on there. It's the Heart of Geek on Facebook. We have the Heart of Geek on Twitter. We have the Heart of Geek on Instagram. And we're putting out new stuff all the time. I'm at least doing one of these once a week, every Tuesday. And we have a new D&D stream coming out on Twitch, The Heart of Geek, on Saturday. And we hope to see you there because that's going to be a lot of fun. But if I don't, that's okay. But if I don't see you again, I hope you have a great day, a great week, a great month, and a great year. Bye-bye.